All right, Nancy, we are live. Let me just press this button on Instagram and we'll be good to go. All right, Nancy, it's warm. It looks sunny and warm behind you. How you doing over there in
Hi.
for the holidays, the winter holidays?
Yeah, I'm good. It's an interesting, when you grow up in New York and winter is your signal that like, oh, it's the holiday season and it starts right around Thanksgiving. It gets cold and those crisp mornings. Waking up Christmas morning and it being 80 degrees out is a little weird, even
Yeah.
though there's like lights up and stuff. My my brain and body need the signal of cold weather to really feel like it's the holidays. So yeah, I mean, it's great. I've been able to sit outside every day and enjoy this, but yeah, I'm gonna have to, figure out some sort of tradition. I don't know how much it is to like buy snow, or I don't know. Maybe next year.
Frosty's not doing too well in your neck of the
No,
woods.
no. Mm-mm.
All right, Nancy, let me introduce you real quick. Welcome to Fresh Start Fridays. Thanks for being here. I'm going to read your bio and then we'll just kind of get into the discussion for Friday right after the holidays. All right. Nancy Deborah Barrows is an international keynote speaker, 5-time LinkedIn top voice, and founder of Radiating Real Movement. Known as the Queen of Engagement, she inspires people to show up authentically, lead consciously, and embrace the power of being fully human. And she does it with heart, humor, and zero apologies, because being human is not a flaw, it's the point. She's a Reiki practitioner, dedicated cat mama, native New Yorker, which we just heard about, lover of carrot cake, love that, and does not accept apologies for living life and being human. So that is the official bio. Nancy, my friend, thank you for being here on Fresh Start Fridays. How you doing? Other than it being a lot warmer by you than it is by me.
I think you're expecting snow, if I remember correctly. Is that true? Like a lot of snow?
Yeah, actually, that's why I came even earlier and I didn't do the broadcast at my parents where I was all week because, yeah, in the next hour or so, we're going to be getting a bunch of snow. So we are
Ah.
ready for the holiday or the winter season.
There you go. The answer to the question seems like it's so easy, but a little complicated at the same time because I'm good. Keeping perspective, not toxic positivity, keeping perspective, I'm good. I've got a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things have changed. I have been talking to the universe, thanking it with a lot of gratitude for my strength and resilience,
Mm-hmm.
and wondering if it would be okay if I didn't have to call on it quite so frequently. If we could just arrange it so that I wouldn't have to be calling on it quite so frequently. It's been a lot, honestly, and I know there's other people who are on this kind of journey, and that's one of the reasons I love having these conversations. If what I'm going through can help anyone else or just make them feel a little less alone, then wow, what a privilege, right, to be able to give that gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say something really obnoxious to the person who's getting snow. I'm going to keep trying to dodge the sun here. Sorry.
Oh, my heart goes out to you.
Yeah, I feel bad for me. I mean, it's not like I was suffering in Los Angeles either. It's just different.
Yeah. Okay, so Fresh Start Fridays, that's what we're all about, talking about, rebounding and resilience and coming back after major setbacks and things like that. And as I wrote kind of in the show description, like you as an individual are no stranger to being resilient and bouncing back and having that, whether it's like a fighting spirit or just never giving up, that grit of just I gotta do this, right? Never one to just cower in the corner and just being, oh, woe is me. You've got a story and you've got a couple stories. There's a couple chapters that we can go through, but I know that one of the chapters is with mental health, and that's not a topic I don't believe we've hit that topic yet on Fresh Start Fridays. So I'd love to start there and then see where the conversation takes us. and hear some more of the journey of Nancy Barrows. So tell us a little bit about your journey with in mental health and battling depression and eating disorders and whatever else. So yeah.
Okay, so well, we'll start with trauma. Okay, so
Okay.
many,
Trauma.
so many of us can start with trauma, right?
Right.
And I say that flippantly, but it's a real thing, and it shapes who we might be. I'm not going to say it predestines who we are, but it shapes who we might be. And so, from an early age, and if people have not heard my story before, I just give you permission to accept it, feel whatever you're going to feel, because I felt all of it. But I was sexually abused by my grandfather until I was 16 years old. And I didn't even know what a mandated reporter was. But at some point, a mandated reporter sort of did what they're supposed to do and protected me. It didn't feel like I was being protected at the time because the secret that I had carefully kept was really like mine. And in the eyes of a 16-year-old, I had it all under control, right? The only one being hurt was me. But it all came out, and that was sort of the beginning of, I'm sure stuff was there, but I wasn't as conscious of it at the time, and it didn't rule my world. When I say that I was a pretty typical 16-year-old before that, my abuse was very compartmentalized for me. So my grandparents, it's only when I spent time with them. And outside of that, my core family was great. I was really like pretty much a typical 16-year-old. But now this was kind of unleashed in every area of my life. Now was touched by this. And that was real icky. And so when I really first experienced depression, my first major depressive episode came after confronting my grandfather when I was 20 years old. And I had prepared the best you can prepare and handed over this burden to him, quote unquote, thinking it would free me. And the reality is, you are your story. I couldn't, even though it wasn't my fault, I couldn't unload everything. And that was kind of a harsh reality, to go from doing this big, brave thing that was liberating, I'm sure, on lots of levels that I didn't see at the time. What I came out with was depression of, this is my life and this is stuff I'm going to have to deal with. And at that time, it was, I was in college and starting to date more serious. It was coloring a lot of aspects of my life. And so at 16, when it all came out, the one thing I had control over was what I put in my body. And the eating disorder slowly developed through that. It was very picky eating, and then very restrictive eating, and then panicking about eating, where food then controlled me. The whole dynamic had changed. But after I confronted my grandfather, I actually dropped out of college and went home because I couldn't function. And at that time, I was a big mask wearer, and everything had looked so perfect in my life. I had worked so hard for no one to notice me. So dropping out of college, it was like, I can't do this. How can I possibly drop out of college? What am I going to tell people? What are they going to think? A million things. But the reality was, I just couldn't do it. I went home. I left the bed to go to therapy individually 3 times a week and once a week for group. At that time, medication saved me, for sure. I was very resistant at first, but the medication saved me, and I got back on my feet and sort of moved through and was feeling better. The eating disorder followed me. I moved to California, and feel free to stop me because this is a whole lot. But I moved to California.
I do have one question though, just for timeline.
Yeah.
Are you 19, 20 when you moved to California, or did we jump ahead in the story?
No, I'm around 20. So what happened was, I dropped out of college. I went home. I did a lot of therapy, did a lot of work, started taking medication, and was feeling better. My brother and his now wife of 28 years, his girlfriend at the time, were in California living there. And we were going to do my trial at life. I was going to go to UCLA for a summer. I was going to take some classes, live in the dorms, and I had a safety net there. I had family there. I had people there that if it all fell apart again, right, I wasn't alone. It could be picked up. So I moved out, and I had the best summer of my life, and decided, you know what? I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to transfer to UCLA. I'm not going to go back to where I was. People there knew my story. At that point, I wasn't a person who knew how to deal with people who knew my story. Like that
Mhm.
was still a skill I was developing. It was hard to face people who knew my truth. So I'm like, I'm starting over. I'm going to move out to California, and I have the most amazing parents
Mhm.
that I could ask for because they were like, okay, fine. You want to move. And I moved and I applied to UCLA. I actually didn't get accepted till the spring semester. So I was out there doing classes through an extension. And I realized when I went home for Thanksgiving, and I'm not a huge drinker, despite those of you who have seen me at Podfest. I'm sure. I know. It happens sometimes, but I had been drunk for like a week straight, and I
Okay.
hadn't moved my car and had $700 worth of parking tickets. And the idea of the fact that my story had come with me hit me pretty hard.
Mhm.
You can't outrun it. It comes with you. You can set it aside for a little bit, but it has a way of finding you.
Mhm.
And I was going to drop out of UCLA, and my mom actually pushed me back. And I think that was really brave of her because she had seen me before, when I dropped out of college. It was a very scary situation to see who their daughter was, this strong, independent girl who couldn't get out of bed all of a sudden, and I'm saying what's going on. And my mom's like, you need to go back.
Mhm.
Need to, you need to basically, your story is going to follow you here again. So if
Mhm.
you're happy there, be there and let's find you the support and do the work. So I did. And I stayed at UCLA, and I'm very, very, very happy that I did because it led to all sorts of things. Um, for a very long time, especially my 16-year-old self, always thought that the thing that I would identify with that would carry through my life was that I had been sexually abused. That was going to be my scarlet letter. And what
Mhm.
I've learned at almost 53 years old is actually depression is what's followed me through. That's been my biggest challenge continually throughout my life. And we can go anywhere you want with it. Like I've tried different
Mhm.
treatments, and we can talk about that. We can talk about living with depression. We can talk about the fact that, yes, I have this voice inside of me that pushes me forward and tells me I have to, but there are plenty of times I've ended up on the floor, not wanting to, not feeling I could, not, like sort of like, if this is what it is, why do I want this?
Mhm.
What gets you through those moments, or what's gotten me through those moments. So I'm going to hand it back to you as a host to give me a little bit of direction and tell me if there are any questions about um, any of this. Go for it.
Yeah, I guess the one of the first questions that I have is when you started to like become consciously aware that it was the depression that was following you more than the trauma from the abuse, even though obviously they're both following you, but it sounds like the depression is kind of like what took hold and like what took had more of a presence, I might say, right? um what were some of the things that you were doing to overcome that, realizing like, hey, maybe this is the battle that I need to be facing if I'm really going to move on, because I've dealt with the trauma from the abuse, but now there's like a another symptom or just something else that's manifesting due to the experience that happened before, right?
Yes, absolutely. And for me, I did a lot of therapy. So the eating disorder and the trauma, a lot of processing around that. And
Mhm.
what I came to learn is that trauma changes your brain, right? It changes your
Mhm.
brain. Yes, we can rewire our brains. Our brains have plasticity, but part of what the medical community is learning, things like PTSD, how we've the medical community is treating it differently as we learn more and more, is that trauma does something to your brain more than just some rewiring. It's like chemically it changes
Mhm.
our brains, right? So like I said, I tried medication. I was very grateful for medication. It definitely got me out of my first major depressive episode, and I'd gone off it and I'd gone back on it. I've done that a couple of times. I've tried every antidepressant
Mhm.
out there. I get some results. I have really sort of it. It's like a double depression. Like I have a depressed mood and then major depression. Like those are sort
Mhm.
of things that I deal with. Um, and I've tried all sorts of medication. I'm not really a big responder to medication. I get
Mhm.
some relief, but it's sort of always still there a bit. Um, and it took a lot of time and a lot of change in the community, both like medically and in society, about our thinking about mental health and mental wellness, for
Mhm.
me to discover a lot of things, because it was sort of like you didn't tell anyone you took medication. That was a big,
Mhm.
no one talked about depression. And as I've journeyed through, it's become more something we do talk about. And there's
Mhm.
been more discoveries about what we can do, more mindfulness stuff, other things other than medication, because that's what I was relying on so heavily and it wasn't working.
Mhm.
So I still take medication every day to keep a baseline, but I've also done things like TMS, which is transcranial magnetic stimulation,
Okay.
which is a different way of rewiring the brain, where it's not talk therapy. Like, I can talk and talk and talk, as you can tell, but at some point there's a piece that needs a physiological change. So I did TMS, which was a really interesting journey. And at first I didn't think it was really working. And by the end of it, and then even a few weeks after, I was like, I actually feel better than I have in a really long time. And not, I mean, life happens. My mood changes. I'm
Mhm.
not immune. I'm a big journaler. I'm a big communicator, talking to people about how I'm feeling. But I'm also a retreater. I'm a big process in my head, process by writing,
Okay.
um, fall apart. I fall apart. I do affirmations. It's sort of like any combination, physical movement, sitting outside,
Mhm.
any combination that works in the moment. And
Mhm.
it's like one of those things I wish I had the prescription for fix
Mm.
for me and for everybody else.
Right.
Right?
I'm sure you're right. Yeah.
Right. It's for me and for everybody else, because it's hard and it's
Mhm.
exhausting. And, most of the time I'm good on the outside,
Mhm.
but I could still be crumbling on the inside. And part of the radiating real movement is like, I'm taking off this mask. Like, nope, I'm going to show up on my worst days too, because we're killing each other. Like, I'm trying to figure out how other people are doing it. Like, how does everybody get through life? And I'm failing so miserably, quote unquote. Um,
Mhm.
but it's hard to be that vulnerable, but it's important that we normalize that, as that
Mhm.
being the experience, like the human experience, living life and being human. Um, I tend to be a positive person, but trust me, I throw tantrums. I get angry. I get down. I have the days that I can't do it. And I
Mhm.
don't want to. I don't want to. I just don't want to. So it's really, I think, having sort of like a whole bag of tricks, like your tools, like that the chick with the tool belt was about,
Chick
like
with a tool belt.
having all
Okay.
having all these tools, right? I don't know every time which one's gonna work, but I have to keep
Right.
keep going. And I have been very fortunate that throughout my life, I've only had, if it comes up, passive suicidal ideation, meaning I've never wanted to take my own life. I've never wanted to die
Mhm.
by suicide, but I would be okay if I got sick or if I got in a car accident and died. It was more of like that kind of feeling. Um, and I recently actually got a tattoo on my ankle, and it's three little birds. And I don't even think they know it. Fully,
From Bob
fully.
Marley or
Not Bob Marley, but
oh,
I
okay.
have a connection too. It's a good reminder as well, but it's for my two nieces and nephew,
Okay.
who are my anchors through everything, because when I did wanna give up, I remembered that I didn't want to create trauma in their lives that
Mhm.
they would then have a lifetime of dealing with if I were to hurt myself or take my own life, die by
Okay.
suicide. So they were very much an anchor. So I know sometimes even the pain, and it's hard from the outside to understand why someone would go to such extreme measures. But for me, having that piece that I could come back to, of like, I don't want to put this burden on them,
Mhm.
was always something that was like my North Star and lifesaver. So even at my worst, I'm like, nope, you're gonna have to be here. We're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna be here. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I don't until I do.
Mhm. Tell me a little bit about Radiating Real, because I really wanna after you said it, I'm like, "Ooh, I think this is where we need to go next."
Okay.
I'm curious, because I'm curious for a lot of reasons. I'm a curious person. Um, with Radiating Real, it's encouraging and inspiring people to show up authentically, right? Um, and I'm curious to know, like, as we have become a very digital society, like we're online all the time, and now there were a lot of us, right here, two people
Mhm.
here, a lot of people chiming in and stuff like that, our content creators. Like, what's been your experience with um working with people, working alongside people, encouraging them to show up even on their tougher days? Like, do you see a lot of people like putting on masks just to do the thing that they like, the content creation part, while at the same time, as you mentioned before, like crumbling on the inside, like putting on the brave face, crumbling on the inside? You know, I'm just, I know there's really not a question there, but I'm just curious to hear your experience with it. And I will follow up with a question. I'm just, want to hear your experience with that.
Sure, sure. So Radiating Real was born out of my own need to get rid of my mask. So
Okay.
I had worn a mask my whole life. In high school, I was captain of the volleyball team, president of my class. No reason to look at me twice, right? Socially did well, happy girl. Don't look at me.
Hmm.
College, same thing. Like I was able to pull it off in college. Like great, and I mean, great college mask. Well, yeah, you go out and drink with your friends and you can sleep all day and you can,
Hmm.
that's a great mask for depression, but I was able to put that on. I even throughout my marriage, right? I
Hmm.
was gonna get married and buy a house and have the car and the cats, not the dog. And like I wore this mask,
Hmm.
hiding myself from people, but also from myself. Like from really sitting with and looking at what was my reality? What was it? What was what did I look like without all this?
Hmm.
Um, and I slowly did it over time, but I will say, I think during the pandemic, which is only 5 years ago, only, right? But I spent a lot of, yeah, I know. It's like that's another whole other like crazy topic when I tell people, and I say this with understanding that people really suffer, but the pandemic was uh, the happiest I've been in a while.
Okay.
And we can get into that. But one of the things that happened is I spent a lot of time by myself and I spent a lot of time with my story because that's when I got into LinkedIn and
Okay.
sharing the story and doing all of this. And I really got to know me, like the real Nancy Deborah Barrows, and realized that I liked her.
Okay.
I'm like, no, I like this woman, like scars and all. She's giving, she's kind, she's quirky, she's
Hmm.
she's curious, she's a witch, she talks to plants, she I like who she is.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't be that person. I can't erase my past. But finally saying, no, this is who I am, and I don't need to be anything other than this, even with my ugly, snotty, unsexy days. Those are
Hmm.
part of who I am. And I had experienced it myself where I had seen two of my dear friends go through divorce, three actually. And on the outside, they all looked fine. And when I went through my divorce, I was a mess. Like I
Hmm.
was an absolute mess. And I kept thinking, how did they do it? How did they do it? And one of them called me one day and I was hysterical. And I said, but you did this with so much grace. You did this like so beautifully. And she was like, are you kidding? You
Hmm.
didn't see me crying in my bed at night. You didn't. That was like, aha, put all this together. Like, you're right. We're not seeing it. And therefore we're judging ourselves harshly. Like everybody else can do it. Why can't I? Well, nobody else is doing that.
Hmm.
Nobody else is living perfect. No, if you're living life and being human, you are not immune to a hard day at minimum, much
Hmm.
less something traumatic or challenging or really that rocks you to your core, right? And that was sort of where Radiating Real was born. It was
Okay.
this piece of like I needed to take off my own mask. And in doing so, wanted others to see that you could still be everything you are and show up however you are in the moment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you look back on my social media, I have mascara down to here because I was too tired to, wash my face before I go to bed. Like the human pieces of like all of what was happening, because otherwise, again, we have this internal report card where we never give ourselves an A. When's the last time someone gave themselves an A? If you're out there giving yourself an A, drop it in the comments because I'll celebrate with you. It's what happens. We love to give ourselves that F. And so if I could show up and really embrace me, which is what I needed to do, with the purpose of helping others, which makes it easier, then hey, hashtag radiating real, let's do this. And blessed and given the privilege of helping others, clients, creators included, lots of creators actually, of shifting how they show up. And like, everybody loves the polished version of you, but you know what they're going to really deeply resonate with? The human side of you.
Mm-hmm.
The human side that makes them go, okay, I have you up on this pedestal because you're amazing, but wow, we're actually not that much different. Now I'm really connected to you. Now I'm really invested. Now I'm really seeing myself in you and vice versa. That's a very powerful thing. And so that's really where radiating real came from, was giving myself permission and holding myself accountable, and being able to help others in the process always makes it easier for me to do. So I think I answered some of what was not your question.
You did. And actually there's a lot of movement going on in the comments area. So I'm gonna hop in there real quick.
Sure.
Okay, we got big shout out Brian.
Hey.
Brian Showman. I think he's probably he can
probably
hear me.
My computer and everybody can say hi to him. Forever my cheerleader and support.
Hey buddy. All right, so we'll shout out Brian. We got Aaron in the comments. What's going on, brother? Okay, I'm just scanning real quick to see if there's any questions. Lots of support. Go big sis. Let's see. Any question marks in here? All right, so we got Brian in the chat. We got Aaron. We got some other folks. Thank you all for being in there. Okay, so no questions yet, but then I have a question for you, Nancy. And my question is, like, when you are encouraging individuals showing up every day, especially like maybe even like business owners or content creators who kind of want to put themselves out there into the digital world, whether it's social media, online in some way, shape, or form, podcasts, live streams, things like that. Like, do you ever, when you're talking to them about showing up, even on the bad days, ever get like a deer in headlights, or maybe even a little bit of pushback as far as, well, how do I show up when I'm not feeling my best, or when I'm not looking my best, or if I have mascara running down my cheeks or something like that? Like, what kind of tips do you have for those individuals? I mean, obviously, there's a difference between just completely being unprofessional. Like, you obviously don't want to show up while you're sitting on a toilet or something like that, or you know what I'm saying? But I mean, like, there's a difference between being authentic and real, and just being like, hey dude, wrap it up and compose yourself.
Working within some guidelines here, right? And my story is sort of like the extreme example, right? No one has to crack open their chest and tell your biggest secrets. We're all entitled to our privacy and our secrets. I think it's the first step is talking about what's personal versus what's private.
Okay.
Personal can be shared. Private doesn't have to be shared. We're under no obligation to share everything. That's certainly not. I think that comes up. And the other thing that people are worried about, their brand. But my brand, how are people going to trust me if I show up and I say, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no idea how to do this, and I'm crying? And well, guess what? Again, what we just talked about is that makes you more relatable. I remember, like, when I would go into a new therapist, I'm like, I needed someone who didn't like look like me, but was about my age, and I could imagine, like, you can relate to what I'm talking about, right? I wasn't 30 talking to a 6-year-old woman who I didn't think would understand what it was like to be 30, right? How could you help me through? It's very easy for us to have that, like, you can't understand. So if you're relatable to people, it's actually not going to destroy your reputation. It's going to only improve it. And I will say I've never worked with anyone who said, "Damn it, Nancy, I wish I had never radiated real." Like, it's always been so positive. The experience is so positive, and if you do it in a way, like I said, personal versus private, like what,
I like that.
yeah, like what do you want to share about you personally?
Right.
That's a difference. Like letting people see pieces of you that maybe they wouldn't, because you've shown up really, and maybe not even buttoned up, but you've shown up business, right? You've shown
Hmm.
up business. This is what I do. This is who I am. Let me give you a tip on this. What's something personal that
Hmm.
you could share, and like sort of starting to brainstorm about it, a couple of different areas of life that you really enjoy that you could share with people, and start there.
Hmm.
And it, like I said, I've never had anyone get a bad response for sharing a picture of their pet.
Hmm.
Like nobody's like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a fraud." I'm not, how do you coach people because your dog's up there? It doesn't. It's more often people are like, "Oh, cute puppy," and then they start dropping pictures of their
Hmm.
animals and things that are important to them. It's a connection point. So that's when I'm working with clients, really where we get into, and the pushback of like, what's the fear? What does it say about you if? That's a question I ask a lot. What does it say about you if you share some personal information? Like, what's the narrative that you're holding on to?
Hmm.
And, it's funny because I've always been a little witchy, woo woo, my family. I'm always like the weirder one. And I recently got trained in Reiki. It's about a year now, because
Okay.
I have always believed in the energy and all of that. And it's just another complementary place for me to help people where they are blocked
Hmm.
energetically, where they're lacking flow. Even helping them, like I've had a lot of real great success with people with like crystals, having their own reactions to different things and then feeling it themselves, and getting buy-in of like, you've got, like, we've all got energy. We measure the energy of people's hearts and tests all the time, right? That's electrical impulses. Uh,
Hmm.
we talk about like the human brain could actually, the energy in our brain can light a light bulb, a household light bulb. So sometimes it's harder. Like, I know for me, it was harder to talk through everything. So being able to offer another side of it, of like a little bit more mindfulness, a little bit more like, okay, are you willing to, is this where people don't come to me because everything's working?
Hmm.
Let's face it, people don't come to you because everything's working. So we get people where they're really vulnerable. We meet them where they're at, and I try to sort of stretch their view of things,
Hmm.
challenge them, quote unquote, with a few questions of reflection. And also, like, now again, like, hey, you want to give me a few minutes? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But what if you tried something you've never tried before? Maybe you'll get a
Hmm.
different outcome. So yeah, it's a lot of personal versus private. What does it say about you if? And then sometimes if people are willing, just like, here's a rock to take with you for whatever reason. When I put it in your hand, you're like, this one's really warm, take it with you.
Hmm.
Take it with you. Like that, your body's responding to that. I don't know what it means necessarily. We can talk about it, we'll work through it, but you've got a talisman. You've got something that came from the earth that ties us to a bigger picture that's now
Hmm.
coming.
Very cool. I
Mhm.
will say, just as a quick aside note before moving into the next part of the discussion, one of my most favorite jobs in college was when I worked at Barnes and Noble, and I say that because I remember I was cleaning up the one day, and I'm like, college kid, 18, 19, whatever, and I picked up this one book, and I had to reshelve it. And it was a Reiki book. And I'm like, what the heck? How do we even say this? And the one lady who was a coworker, she's like, "Oh, well, blah blah blah, this and that. Like, this is what it is." And then it really like got me interested. And actually, two of my buddies that worked in the cafe with me, because I worked in the cafe of the bookstore,
Mhm.
we actually, the three of us became very interested in it, and we went and got a Reiki attunement. And that, to
Mhm.
do it with two friends, was
Mhm.
a very cool experience, and I'll always remember that. So just wanted to say that as a quick aside.
No, I love it, and I love hearing people with their experience, because again, it's not something people talk about, like, "Ooh, energy, ooh, weird, weird,
Hmm.
weird," like, yo, like, there's so many people out there who are looking to the universe, right?
Hmm.
It's nice to be connected to something bigger. It's nice to have that, and I think it's lovely that you did it with friends. One of the things I've put out to the universe is I'm in the process of training to teach other people Reiki.
Okay.
But I wanna do, like, retreats. I want people to
Mhm.
have that space, um, that just come as you are with other people who are very safe and accepting, and it's very brave space, and, like, like you had your attunement, like, let's just give ourselves every opportunity.
Very cool. Cool. Um, the other thing that I want to get into real quick, you recently moved back. Now, you talked about growing up. Well, you're an East Coast girl,
Yes,
went to the West Coast,
yes.
spent a great deal of time on the West Coast, and then you recently, as we noted in the very beginning, made your way to the Southeast, right?
Yes, I've
Down in
saw it.
Florida.
Mhm.
So tell us about this transition and what that took to just basically uproot yourself. Because I remember um, you and I were texting the one day just randomly, and you're like, "Oh, I'm moving like now," and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And then yeah. So tell us a little bit about
Mm.
this life change.
Yeah, this life change has been one of the more challenging, that I've gone through, but what provoked it? Gosh, it is has been the easiest it's the easiest decision I've ever made, but it's, like, the easiest, most difficult decision I've ever made, is what I would
Okay.
say, because I it started a couple years ago when I came to visit my parents, and I noticed they were aging, and I noticed specifically with my mom some memory issues, and, um, it was really concerning for me, and it wasn't of all the things that I was expecting that could happen, it wasn't one that was on my radar for our family, that wasn't something we had, like, sort of experienced before, and I decided then and there that I was gonna move.
Okay.
It just took me some time to really wrap my head around uprooting myself,
Hmm.
making the plans to do it, and taking it all on.
Yeah.
Um, but I knew the only way I could move forward without regret
Hmm.
was to be here. My mom.
And And real quick, just for my own understanding, you've been on the West since college, right? There
Oh,
was
yeah.
never anywhere like you didn't do a
No,
stint in.
California was nope, my home. From the time
Okay,
I moved out there till I was 50, maybe 51, I don't remember.
so it's
Um,
safe to say that you spent
I
like if
grew
you
up.
were like 18 or so when you moved out there, you spent the next half of your life on the West Coast.
Yes. That
Okay,
was where my community was, that was where my professional life was, that
yeah,
was really, um, that was home. That was
yeah,
home. And I will say that during the pandemic, my brother moved out of the Los Angeles area, so that was a piece that also gave me permission and not permission, that's not the right word, but it freed me in a way to move because
okay,
I always wanted to be close to my brother and my nieces and nephews and my family. Um, that was a privilege that I had with my nieces and nephews growing up to have the relationships that we have. And so I think that was one piece that the universe sort of brought around. But yeah, I was concerned and I thought to myself, I want as much time with my mom
hmm,
while she's my mom.
yeah,
I don't want to wait for the hard part to
yeah,
show up. Um, and so, like I said, it was a very easy decision, but one of the most difficult I've ever made. And the idea was to move here and not live with them. But
hmm,
it turns out that the way things happened, I live with them. And my
yeah,
dad, it's been a scary year with my dad, who's doing great now, thankfully. But being here, I can't imagine what it would be like if I wasn't. I mean, I would have had to have been anyway. I don't know how I would have navigated all of this from California just because my heart would have been
hmm,
here. Um, that being said, just because it's something I chose doesn't mean it's easy.
sure.
It doesn't mean it is a place I've never been before. Talk about having to put tools in your tool belt. It was like I had to go way back. I had to go back to Home Depot and walk up and down every aisle to figure out what does this thing do? I don't know, but I think I might need it. Take it home just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, realistically, caregiving is hard. Thankfully they're still with me and they're still making decisions, but I really am sort of like I'm adulting for 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
When my dad was in the hospital most recently, it's like like how am I the person, making all these decisions and figuring out what's right and best, and I haven't slept and I don't know how to sleep, and I'm living my whole world is I've had to relearn everything, including work. Like I'm working full time for someone else now, right? I haven't done that in years. My coaching was in my private practice was my main source of income. But hey, you move, you need health benefits, you need a job, you need a steady paycheck. You do what you got to do.
Right.
I live with my parents. I mean, like, it's,
Mm-hmm.
you live with your parents. Thankfully, we mostly get along. But, we're a lot of adults, and thank goodness for Brian Schulman, because
Mm-hmm.
he was brave enough and loving enough and generous enough to make the move too,
Mm-hmm.
after I had moved here. But that's 4 different people, 4 personalities living together. And I joke all the time that, people are like, oh yeah, grown-ups, elder adults are like toddlers. I'm like, yes, but they have money and I can't tell them to go to their room without dessert. Like I just, there's just only so much, that I can do.
I can't tell them to go to the room without dessert.
Dessert. I mean, I can't say I haven't tried. It doesn't work. So, like really, I'm constantly learning. This is a whole new chapter in learning about grace in a different way for them. Like for me, for them, for all of us. This is a scary journey for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know that we're supposed to be this up close and personal with aging, knowing what's coming down the line. It's scary for them. You want to help them without taking away their independence. There's a balance that you're always trying to sort of keep, and trying to be empathetic to me for all the ways my life has changed, and finding different ways of finding self-care. My self-care is typically like, I want to be alone in a quiet place. Well, that's not what happens here. There's no such thing. So, you find other ways, but it's really a constant journey. And what I'm getting to is, I'm always exhausted. I am, for sure. But that framing it to myself in a different way, that it's like, I'm not failing, and it's not that I have to do more or do so much. It's just learning all these new things. If patient with the process of figuring it out, and like, okay, I'm learning to ride a bike, I'm going to fall down. Don't hold myself to the standard of, I've ridden a bike for 30 years and I should be able to do this. It's not realistic. Not to say that I don't on days, but I also am looking at me from like I could sleep 10 hours every night and I'd still be exhausted, because there's so many other things that are draining, the worry, the constant ear out overnight, and I'm listening just to make sure it's okay, or just the nervous system kind of physiological piece. So, and the fact that it's not fully my journey alone. So I can't just make a decision that's good for me. It's a committee decision. And even sharing it has been challenging, because it's not just me. Like, I would love to talk about my experience with all of this, and I will. And I'm working on finding ways without exposing my parents in ways that they wouldn't be comfortable with. Sure. This is an interesting one, Rich, and we'll have to keep coming back to talk to it, because I honestly, my thoughts on it are still developing, and it's been over a year. Like, it's okay. it's still, I mean, I think I was in survival mode for a very long time when I first got here, right?
Hmm.
It was just due. Um, and now that we're all healthy again, it's like, okay, moving forward,
Hmm.
how are we going to manage this? I had a conversation with my dad yesterday because my dad loves pizza. My dad would eat pizza every night, and every night he will ask for pizza. And yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't even like, I'm like, I'm not even sure I really like Italian food, Dad. What's happening? Like,
Uh,
so I said to Dad, I said, you know what? Maybe we make a deal because everybody needs to feel like they have some control. I think we all have felt like we've lost autonomy and control in different ways. I'm like, what about every other Friday night is pizza night? Like, can we negotiate? This is the same
okay.
man told me he hasn't driven in 4 years, and yesterday he's like, Nancy, take me driving. Oh my gosh, okay. You know, you're an adult. I can't tell you no. It's your car. What am I doing? But I think I'm finally in a place where I'm getting brave enough to really digest it. Like,
Okay.
we're not in survival mode right now. We're stable. This is where you sit down and you're in it.
Hmm. Just out of curiosity, I just want to put some light on one of the things that you had said. Now, um, do you have any advice for someone who is like, whether it's an entrepreneur or a coach or someone like that, right? For they've been working for themselves for a
Hmm.
very long time. Like, what do you have any tip or any tools from the tool belt that you can offer someone who maybe might need to return to the workforce for a brief amount of time? Maybe they're a caregiver, like what you're what you're going through right now yourself, being in that situation of caring for a loved one, a family member, a parent, whatever the case is, or maybe they find themselves returning to the corporate world for another reason,
Mhm.
whatever. Like that's got to be a big wake up call, big life change, probably something that most entrepreneurs don't want to return to, but they might feel like, oh crap, like this is what is necessary in the moment of time. Even though you're developing this, or you're still, you said I'm still developing how I feel about this, or something. What kind of advice do you have for someone like that?
It's very humbling. I will
Oh.
say going back to work for someone else is very humbling. And that's okay. Like, humility is not a bad thing, but I think it's really important to continue to keep front and center the reasons why you're doing it.
Okay.
Um, because for me, it's like this gives me the opportunity to spend the time with my family, my mom and dad
Mhm.
that I wanted, right? It's
Okay.
there are some things about it that are freeing. I'm not always having to hustle. To worry about the income and the clients. I've got a steady income and I've got my health benefits. But keeping my eye on the prize of why I'm doing this, why
Mhm.
am I returning? And I know some people aren't returning for reasons that I am. Some people are
Sure.
forced into it. Maybe it's financial. They don't want to be doing it at all and they don't feel like they're getting anything positive out of it. But I would say search for that positive. Really, what is
Okay.
it giving you? Like what are you losing? It really is going to depend on the person. If I'm working with a client, like, what are you losing or what are you gaining from
Mhm.
this? And for a lot of entrepreneurs, while I felt like I was losing a lot of autonomy and control, I was gaining working hours that were always the same.
Okay.
Like, hey, I go to work and I leave work and I'm done. I'm done.
Mhm.
That's it. I was gaining the time with my family, right?
Okay.
I was gaining some freedom in how I spent my free time again, right? I a lot of time when we're entrepreneurs and working on the sidelines, this is a 24/7 job. It's a lot. It's a lot. I think that was really important for me, was to pause and keep my eye on the prize and remind myself that I get to.
Mhm.
There's people in my position who wouldn't have the opportunity that I'm having by
Mhm.
taking a full-time job and going back to working for someone else. There's people who have financial issues and really need to get a job and maybe can't find one, right?
Mhm.
And they're still stuck in the scary of that. But I get to. It may not look exactly the way I want it. It may not be my most favorite thing, but I get to. And how to be less anxious. Yeah, that's, oh, it's a 2 a.m. thing, right? 2 a.m. Oh my gosh, what is happening? What did I do in my life? I blew it up. And I admit that's a challenging one for me. Because it all happens for a reason, and I know there's something out there, but when you're in it and you can't see that, it's really hard to say, like, I'm not going to be anxious. I think I talk to my anxiety. It's funny, this morning my dad actually said to me, he's like, have you always talked to yourself? Because I was doing all sorts of stuff around the house and just completely there's a constant dialogue. I won't even say it's internal. There's a constant dialogue about what I'm doing. And so talking to the anxiety of, like, what is the anxiety about? What does it need? What happens if it's not there? Like, a lot of times that is all about, like, if I'm not worrying about it, it's all going to fall apart.
Okay.
Right? If I don't constantly think about it, if I'm not worrying about it, if I'm not constantly putting effort into this, it's all going to fall apart, right? What's the fear? Usually it's that, right? Whether it's going to fall apart, or I'm going to lose momentum, or whatever that thing is, depends on everybody's situation. But it's like, worrying about it's not changing it. That's the rational piece, right? That's beautiful if we can rationalize it. But what the anxiety represents and talking to it, like, okay, so what if I lose some momentum? I lost momentum on LinkedIn and my social media. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a piece that I miss on some level, but it's also something that's always there for me. So I think it's a lot of dialogue and a lot of talk. And I think that for some people that's hard because I'm a word person, but there are other ways to get to it. There are other ways to sit in the feelings and try and look at that anxiety and see what it's really trying to tell you. A lot of times our anxiety is not a bad thing. It lets us know when there's danger, but a lot of times anxiety is distracting us from something else.
I like that.
It's true. I mean, that's what I say about fear, like fear, often anger, right? We get angry because that feels strong, as opposed to fear or vulnerability, which makes us feel, susceptible and weak.
Yeah.
So a lot of times those feelings are red herrings.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Is there anything that we didn't cover? I know that I'm sure we can hit on other chapters, but is there anything that is really, like, at the front that you're like, oh, you know what, I do need to say this? Just
I really think we talked about a lot of the most important things.
cool.
Mental health not being a secret, giving ourselves great. I mean, I think getting comfortable being who we are, not I don't want to say wasting energy. That sounds judgmental. It's not, but not extending energy, trying to live up to other people's standards or what we think we should be. I mean, they got pink hair, I got the nose ring, I've got tattoos, and I still think I'm a pretty good person who's been pretty successful in life. But if you would have told me, when I was in college, that I was going to have a professional career, could I have a nose ring and tattoos and my hair be all sorts of colors, right? I'd probably be like, oh my gosh, no, nobody's going to take you seriously. Nobody's going to trust you. Nobody's going to, right? But the people are going to judge us no matter what.
Yeah,
right.
That is true.
Blanket statement. People are going to trust us. They're going to judge us no matter what. So be who you are and let the right people find you, as opposed to putting all the energy into being someone you're not and feeling alone in your life, because, we can't feel very supported and loved and cared for if we're not giving people the opportunity to be loving us unconditionally for who we are, truly.
I love it.
Yeah. So when I see you at Podfest, I expect your nose to be pierced or your hair to be pink or something. Yeah, work on that one, okay?
I will do my best to maybe my eyebrows or something.
Some maybe. No,
Do like a
yeah, I think people like really leaning into who we are and knowing that we are imperfectly perfect, and there's people out there that are gonna love you for exactly who you are more than you've ever been loved before for who you're not.
very cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I want to I didn't say this before, but for the folks that have been tuning in, obviously shout out Brian who's been monitoring the comments and cheering us on the whole time, cheering on Nancy throughout the on LinkedIn, I believe Brian is right now. Also, Aaron hopped in a couple times with some comments. We had a couple other folks in there offering supportive words, so thank you. You'll notice, folks, that throughout the conversation I've been putting in, if you have a question, drop it in the comments box. We've been live streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram, and also Nancy was rebroadcasting it on Facebook. In the event that you're watching maybe the replay, or maybe like a thought comes at you 5 p.m. later today while you're cooking dinner, you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked that question. Drop it in the comments, because even though this is a live broadcast, if you've got a question, drop it in the comments. I'll make sure that I regularly monitor to see anyone new chiming in or whatever, and I will make sure that it's brought to Nancy's attention. That way she can answer it. So it will be a fluid conversation even into the future. So if you've got that question, just drop it in the comments. We'll, add us, and we'll make sure, tag us. We'll make sure that those questions get answered. Also, too, in the show notes, we've got Nancy's LinkedIn URL, her link for LinkedIn, also her link tree, which I'm sure goes to a bunch of other digital properties as well, and also her Facebook URL as well. So make sure, if you're not connected with Nancy on LinkedIn or Facebook or any other digital platforms, certainly connect with her there. And then I want to give the last, couple minutes or so. What are you promoting? How can we support you? What do we have to look forward to? Big projects, announcements. Use this last couple minutes or so to big up yourself, promote what you're doing, and shine some light on some cool stuff that we would look forward to from you for 2026.
Thank you. Continuing a lot of the same things, but again, if anything here was inspiring or resonated, I am still doing my coaching, and I am doing Reiki, a ton of that, which I do distance as well. Believe it or not, people have wondered about that, but it does work. I am working on actually publishing a book of affirmations and a little workbook for people. I lost my way with my positivity in all of this, and sort of decided, well, this is something that helped me, and I want to put that out there. Brian Schulman and I are always still, developing our master classes and our books. And I think for 2026, again, I'd love to be in a place where I can do the retreats, I can do my speaking. And really what I ask from people is just love and kindness to one another. And if there's some way that I can help, say you saw me here, and be patient, because I'm not on my socials as much as I used to be, but I do get to them. Yeah, I think this year I'm kind of letting go of the wheel.
Okay.
I have had that conversation over and over of what I want, and what I want is to be doing more of me. I want to be doing, I love speaking. I love connecting with people. I love doing my Reiki. I love helping people radiate real. And, that gives me a lot of satisfaction, and a lot of, it's very soul nourishing for me, on top of, being something that I did as a business. It's really, yeah. I don't know. Did I get it all, Brian Schulman?
You did a great job.
One of the things I'm going to get better at 2026, one of the things I endeavor to grow in, is being more comfortable promoting myself and telling, it's a good one.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. There it is.
Oh yeah, that's
Um,
I'm gonna put that out to the universe, to be partnering with Mark this year in a more present way, to really be there for that beautiful event.
yeah, it'll be fun. And hopefully I see you. I know I already talked with Brian the other day. I know he'll be at Podfest. Hopefully we see you as well. Love to get a big hug from the two of you.
I'm really hoping that we can pull that off. That's a place of lots of gosh, what is it? Lots of restoration for me, I think. Like the people. So yeah, I'm working on my brother to come help with the caregiving so I can get a couple of days away.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed and all that. We get to see you both. Hugs all around. Shout out Brian and Aaron for hopping in the comments, all the other folks. Folks that are again watching this live or watching the replay, if you've got a question for Nancy, drop it in the comments. I'll continue to monitor. We'll make sure that Nancy sees those questions. We'll get them answered. I encourage you again to connect with Nancy on LinkedIn and Facebook. Those URLs are in the show notes, and also her link tree, which will branch out into other digital properties. That way you can find her in other platforms and see what she's got going on. Nancy, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this warm Friday for you, cold Friday for me, but right after the holidays. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me, share your story, and show a little bit about how you've been able to bounce back and demonstrate resilience in your life and inspire us to kind of follow that. So thank you again. I look forward to seeing you soon, and you have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful week, and rock it out in 2026.
We'll be there.
All right. Thanks.